Hello and welcome everyone to Occupied Thoughts, a podcast brought to you by the Foundation for Middle East Peace, FMEP. I'm Hilary Rantisi, a 2025 fellow at FMEP. Today is December 9th, 2025, and I'm privileged to be in conversation with Yousef Kamal AlKhouri about Christians in Gaza and the new Kairos 2 document that was just launched last month. First, a brief introduction of our guest today. Dr. Yousef Kamal AlKhouri is a Christian Arab Palestinian theologian from Gaza. He's an assistant professor of biblical studies and academic dean at Bethlehem Bible College. He's a member of the steering committee of Christ at the Checkpoint and the board of Kairos Palestine that we'll be hearing about. A fuller bio will be posted with the podcast. So first of all, Ahlan, Yousef, welcome.
Shukran, Hilary. It's good to be here.
Thank you for joining us. Yousef, you are from Gaza, and this period is, it's hard to say how excruciating it is. Currently, you are in Bethlehem, but I know your family are still in Gaza. And I'm wondering, maybe you can share a little bit about your upbringing and before you moved to Gaza to Bethlehem and about your family life in Gaza.
Yes, Hilary. Again, it's good to join you, and thank you for this important invite to talk a little bit about a marginalized community within Gaza. The Gaza people and Palestinian people in Gaza have been marginalized for a long time, but also the smaller group of Christians. I come from a family that is native to Gaza. For centuries, my great-grandfather has served in the Orthodox Church in Gaza, but in Palestine in general. I was born into an Orthodox family, and I grew up during the first Intifada, Palestinian civil uprising. And I experienced firsthand the brutality of the military occupation in Gaza and in Palestine in general. But I also went through the hopes and aspirations of Palestinian liberation organization in the 1993 and 1994, when we thought that Oslo Accord will bring us peace and a statehood, which was crushed with the continuous expansion of Israeli settlement and Israeli domination over the Palestinian land and livelihood. Um, I moved out of Gaza in 2007 due to the political unrest and also the Israeli blockade that started to be intensified around the 2005, 2006. Just keep in mind that Gaza, as a concentration camp, didn't start this experience in 2005 or 6. It has a long history that goes back even to the 1950s, as I remember. Even in the writings of some historians, they talk about Gaza as a vast or resembling a vast concentration camp. That was written maybe in the 1950s, early 50s.
Yeah.
So I grew up in Gaza during that time before moving to the West Bank into a bigger concentration camp in Bethlehem.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and as you say, the Christian community in Gaza has the large percentage of them were there, have been there for millennia and are not part of the large number of Palestinians who sought refuge and came to Gaza as refugees in 1948 and changed also, of course, a lot of what we know about the Gaza Strip right now. I think I mentioned to you in an earlier conversation about my grandmother, who is also from Gaza and has roots probably in the same neighborhood that your family also has. And so there's a rich presence there, a rich history. And I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about that, because I think for many people, Christians worldwide and Christians even in Palestine don't know about the importance of Christianity and the history of Christianity in Gaza. And I think, you know, that is a very important part of our story as Palestinians, and especially also of Palestinian Christians.
Yes, definitely. It's important to understand that Gaza has almost 5,000 years of history. As a place of communities and societies started around the third millennium BCE.
Oh.
And you get to see that Gaza has been, over the past 5,000 years, a melting pot of people from different cultures, different languages, civilizations, and spiritualities, religions. Judaism and Christianity were always part of that history. It's part of the Palestinian heritage throughout the 5,000 years history. Christianity started in Gaza with the first century. In fact, one of the earliest stories told about Gaza Christian community goes back to the Holy Family, when Jesus and the Holy Family fled to Egypt. Like many Palestinians today, they had to flee to Egypt because the empire was brutalizing the children of Bethlehem, as the story tells us, as King Herod, the client king of the Roman Empire, went after children in an attempt to execute baby Jesus. So the Holy Family had to flee to Egypt, and they rested in Gaza. In fact, to the present day, there is a tree in Gaza. It's called the Good Tree, and the Good Tree, in reference to its history as the tree where the Holy Family rested in its shadow. And since the 4th century, Gaza became a center for the Christian presence in Palestine. In fact, by the 5th and the 6th century, Gaza became the theological center and a school of theology that surpassed Athens and Rome.
Yeah.
People from the West were coming to Gaza to study theology and philosophy and rhetoric. And we get to see that part of Gaza history continues through even the Muslim period. We read more about the Arab bishop of Gaza in the 11th and 12th century. His name is Sulaiman al-Ghazi. And Sulaiman al-Ghazi left us treasure of poems and writings that were in dialogue with the Muslim culture and newcomers to the region, but also reflects on the Christian faith and the Christology, the whole identity of who Christ was and what it means to be Christian around that time. So up to the 19th century, we get to see that the majority of Palestinian Christians were Orthodox or Eastern Orthodox from various traditions within the Eastern Orthodox Church. By the 19th century, new transition began to shape the church in Gaza, but also in Palestine in general. The arrival of the Catholics, the official recognition by the Ottoman empires of the Catholic Church as one of the denominations in Palestine, to also the Anglicans, who established what became known Ahli Hospital in Gaza. Early on, it was known as the English Hospital or the Sterling Hospital. More publicly is known as Al-Ma'madani, even the Baptist Hospital, which reflects the Christian roots in Gaza and the impact of the Christian community. Although the Christian community was for a long time a small minority, or at least for the past millennium, a small minority, it remained a vibrant one that is engaging in the building of the city economy and culture.
Yeah.
So, and until today, Christian community in Gaza, although it's very tiny minority, maybe less than, or currently around 500 people in a population of 2 million still the churches have this great impact in serving the local community and their institutions providing support to the Palestinian Christians and Muslims alike in Gaza City.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I was struck a few years ago. I was in Jordan in Madaba, and in the church in Madaba, they have a map of Christendom, a map that showed all the important Christian centers at that time. It's one of the oldest maps in the world, and it's done with fasefasa, these small stones. And I'm embarrassed to say I don't remember what year it goes back to, but Gaza is one of the main centers for Christendom during that time. It shows you the importance that was documented there, and as you shared with us, the importance of Gaza historically for Christianity and for Christians. It's at this moment with everything that's happening in Gaza and all that has happened, as you mentioned in the 50s, the concentration camp, everything that has happened since then, and the dwindling number of Christians in Gaza, the remaining 500. I wondered if you could. I know that you have written about this. You have created a term, Ecclesiocide. I know that we talk about scholasticide, ecocide, herbicide, domicide, but this is a new term, and I'm wondering if you could introduce us to it and share with us what you mean by it.
Yes, exactly. You mentioned different forms of sites that Israel carried out in Gaza. And I thought the particularity of the Christian community and how Israel targeted, killed, and with intentionality, ethnically cleansing Gaza from its Christian population has to be coined in a way that proper reflects the experience of Gaza Christians as indigenous people to the Gaza Strip and the crimes that Israel has been committing. So the term ecclesiocide reflects what I intend to showcase as the destruction of the church in Gaza. The church that has been in Gaza for the past 2,000 years, it's near extinction because of the Israeli attacks. We all know that one of the earliest Israeli attacks were on the neighborhood of the Orthodox Church of St. Porphyrios, where one of the buildings within the church compound collapsed, killing 18 people. And the building until today remains as it is, intact, in a witness of the Israeli brutality and crime. But also how Israel constantly attacked Christian centers in Gaza, including the Arab Orthodox Cultural Club, including the Holy Family Catholic Church and the Holy Family School in Gaza City. So the Israeli military has been targeting the Christian infrastructure, I would say, even in Gaza, and the Christian presence. And if we look at the numbers more concretely, we'll see that the percentage of the Christians who lived in Gaza, or the number of Christians who lived in Gaza before October 2023, was around 1,100 people. And currently the number is roughly 500.
Wow.
And in the past 2 years, more than 5% of Palestinian Christians in Gaza were killed by the Israeli military, directly or indirectly. And more than 50% have been ethnically cleansed. And the number might actually increase at any moment, especially many of the Gaza Christian community. They wish to stay in their hometown. My family wishes to live peacefully in Gaza City, but the Israelis are making this impossible. So they wish to move and immigrate somewhere. And I say this is not a voluntarily immigration. This is a forced ethnic cleansing.
Yeah. So your parents have endured so much in the last 2 years. It's understandable that life is so difficult. And do you have siblings in Gaza, or it's mainly your parents?
I have siblings, and I have my nephews and niece, so even extended family members. But as you said earlier, the context and the situation in Gaza is unbearable, especially, I would say, to all people alike. But with the lack of medicine and healthcare, especially for older people, makes it even much harder to remain in Gaza.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And they have, for this entire period, been in Gaza City, which also in the last phase was under tremendous attack, with attempts to completely empty it of all the residents. So far, they remain in the same area, and the church remains as a home for so many in the center, both the Catholic and the Orthodox. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
The many Christian families and Muslim families, by the way, are sheltering at the Orthodox Church of St. Porphyrius and the Holy Family Church.
Yeah.
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 Yes.
There's probably so many stories that you can share with us, and a lot of pain behind a lot of the experiences. I can't imagine how hard, Yousef, it has been for you. It has been hard for all of us. I have extended distant relatives in Gaza, but not as close as your family. So it's hard to fully grasp everything that you have experienced and continue to experience. This continues, of course. They're under siege, and the genocide continues. So we pray for your family's safety.
Thank you.
In this context, you yourself are on the board of Kairos Palestine, and I thought this would be an opportunity for you to share a little bit about Kairos Palestine, and especially in this moment. So maybe for people who are not familiar with Kairos Palestine, maybe you could explain what Kairos means, what Kairos Palestine is, and then we'll take it from there.
Yes. Kairos is a Palestinian Christian ecumenical movement, meaning that it brings together people from different denominational and confessional backgrounds. The term Kairos is the Greek word, which means or can be translated as at this moment, meaning it's in the perfect timing. It's a moment of truth, or in a crucial moment in history. And Kairos Palestine, as a document that speaks to the reality of the Palestinian people and speak prophetically, meaning it challenges the dominant narrative which the Israeli empire offers and spread all over the globe about the situation in our land. But it's also important to share a little bit about the history of Kairos, because Kairos Palestine is also part of a global Kairos, which started in the 1980s. In 1985, the Kairos document of South Africa was published to challenge the apartheid regime and segregation. And of course, there are other documents, Kairos documents in India by the Dalit communities, the untouchables, but also in Latin America. So Palestine comes along with this global community of challenging the global apartheid and empire to write and respond to the empire of Israel and its allies. and supporters. And in this document, which reflects a Christian voice, speaks truth to power, it identifies since 2009, it's the year that was when the first Kairos document came out, identifies the context of the Israeli settler colonialism as a sin against God and against people, which is, I think, it's very powerful just to talk about Israeli apartheid, settler colonialism as a sin. It's not only political power, but also has a spiritual and religious meaning. And Kairos document, in many ways, reflects the Christian Palestinian experience and calls for the liberation of Palestinian people from the oppression of the Israeli settler colonialism. And it supports nonviolent, creative resistance based on the logic of love. This is at the heart of Kairos document. And this year we launched Kairos 2, and recognizing that this moment, the past 2 years, and this moment reflect a turning point in the Palestinian experience and Palestinian Christian experience. And we felt the urgency to speak up as Palestinian Christian Ecumenical movement. So in our document, we speak truth in the context of genocide and the shadow of the genocide that has been ongoing in Gaza, but also in the West Bank and the historical Palestine in general, as the Israeli settler colonialism and the Israeli genocide continues to attempt to erase the existence of Palestinian Christian and Palestinians in general, and even our memory in this land.
Yeah, it's a very powerful document. I think both because it describes and uses language that is authentically Palestinian. It's our voice of how we are describing what is happening, but it's also connecting to the global church and has a call for action. I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about what the call is within this second Kairos document.
Yes, I think one of the most important points that this document also emphasizes is the following. To name things as they are, that Israel is a settler colonial state. To name the crime that Israel is committing as a genocide. To hold those who are committing these crimes accountable. And so our calling to the Christian community and the Christian church, but also globally, to move for the liberation of the Palestinian people and holding accountable the war criminals. I would say this is the heart of our message, but also our message contains an invitation to our own people to stay resilient in this land, because this land is the land of our witness as Christians, but also a witness for our sumud, our resilience for the past 2,000 years. As Palestinians, we have seen empire after empire come and go. But as indigenous land of the people, we remain. And our hope is in our rootedness, in our sumud, in this land.
Yeah. No, it's powerful. I think it's important for our listeners and for us Palestinians. I was, what is the message? What are we asking people how to respond in a meaningful way beyond just statements of solidarity? And maybe the message is directed to the churches themselves, but I think maybe also more broadly. Can you share with us sort of some of the more actionable points that are asked of the churches globally?
Yes, the church and I think people of good conscience are called um, to boycott, divest, and sanction this settler colonial regime. And we look at BDS as a creative nonviolent resistance.
Mhm.
So joining this kind of movement uh, to hold this regime accountable for its crime and cut, I would say, the lifeline for its existence, uh, which is important. This has succeeded in South Africa, and I believe will succeed in Palestine. We need also to hold our politicians accountable. Those who have made the decision to be complicit in the genocide. And I would say also even hold church leaders who also were complicit in genocide accountable. I think it's really important to protest peacefully and tell the world and tell our churches, tell our communities that what's happening in Gaza is not only wrong, but it's also sin. This is our call for the people of God conscious Christian community in the world. One addition point that we always emphasize as Kairos Palestine: come and see,
Mm.
come, be here in Palestine, be in solidarity with the Livingstones, the community who's here in Palestine living under this brutal occupation for the past 7 decades, and go and witness, be, I would say, ambassadors of change in your communities and in your countries by sharing your experience and the stories from Palestine.
Not just to come to visit the holy sites and ignore the people who live there, the people who have been worshiping and all these millennia. And I just read about a group of clergymen that the state of Israel has sponsored to come on some tour to proclaim their support for the state of Israel and everything that is happening. And a response from the Palestinian Christian churches of how can you come and not connect with your fellow brothers and sisters in Christ and see what is happening to them and the reality on the ground for Palestinians. Unfortunately, we see this very clearly here in our churches in the US, and documents like the Kairos document, the first, and especially the second one, are so important for us to share with others. And so I encourage everyone to read the Kairos document. We can include a link to the document with the podcast so that people can read it and share it with their church, with their friends, and use it as a tool, as a call for action, as you mentioned. And I guess, Yousef, in closing, we are now in December, in the Advent season, and um, many eyes turn to Bethlehem, or we hear the word Bethlehem in many of the hymns, but people don't necessarily think about the real Bethlehem and what is happening on the ground there. You are in Bethlehem now, and for the last 2 years, I think um, Bethlehem had declared that they are not celebrating Christmas. But this year, the Christmas tree was lit with a statement of sort of steadfastness and not
Mm,
so much celebration. But I'm wondering if you can share with us what are people saying in Bethlehem? What is the atmosphere like? What message do you have for us as we
mm.
enter the Christmas as we approach Christmas during this Advent season?
Yes, I think it's really crucial to highlight that the first Advent in Palestine is no different almost to the second or the current Advent experience for all of us. The first was under uh, Roman imperialism and occupation, military occupation of Palestine that had forced people to move from town to town to register. Exactly what happened to the Holy Family, Joseph, Mary, and um, Jesus was in the womb around that journey. But it was part of their experience. Um, and Jesus was born on the margins of the empire,
Hmm.
such as Palestine today remains on the margin of the imperial interest in many ways. Going back to your question, how it feels today in Bethlehem, and I think you were very correct. We are lighting up the trees this year in Bethlehem, not a way of celebration, but a way of manifestation of our sumud and resilience. Um, the occupation can take our land, can take our lives, but cannot take our hope for liberation. And I think celebrating Christmas or lighting up the Christmas is a sign of hope that it's darkness, but one day a light will shine. And these actually the same words that were used in the prophets and in the New Testament, that people who were walking in the darkness, they saw the light. And we will see the light. It's a matter of time. We have seen empires come and go in through Palestine, and now we read about them in the books of history. But we remain. The olive tree of Bethlehem that is 5,000 years old. I've seen many empires come and go, but it's still here. We get to talk and see it as a 5,000-year olive tree. And I think the Christian community in the church in Palestine and Palestinians will remain here, and the empire will eventually go away. And lighting up the tree this year is to remind ourselves that we have to stay resilient. We have to remain in this land, to witness for the good news of Jesus, but also to witness the powerful act of God that protects the people and holds and judge the empire for their oppression and for their sins.
How powerful. Thank you. I can't think of a better way to end our conversation with this message of hope, this message of strength, um, and also ushering us into the Christmas season. Thank you so much for sharing with us today, both of your personal story, your family story, the church's story in Gaza, and the importance of Christianity in Gaza and what it has historically meant for Christians and continues to mean, as well as our responsibility with the Kairos document to share the call of Palestinian Christians, a call for action, a call to end this ongoing genocide and oppression, apartheid, and settler colonialism. The language in the Kairos document is very clear, and it connects it to also a living faith of people on the land. So I am so appreciative of everything you have shared with us today, and it has been an utter privilege and an honor to speak with you today. In closing here, I also want to thank our listeners for tuning in to this episode of Occupied Thoughts. Please make sure to check out the FMEP website, www.fmep.org, for resources related to this podcast and a lot of other rich content. And please make sure you're subscribed to this podcast to stay up to date. You can find us on iTunes, SoundCloud, or Spotify. And you can also watch video versions of our podcast, including this one, on YouTube. And with that, I'm Hilary Rantisi signing off until the next episode of FMEP's Occupied Thoughts.